Welcome to another episode of Java with Josh. Today we're talking to my very good friend and business partner, Colby Garza. So if you're new to the podcast, if you've never met Colby before, tell us a little bit about yourself. 30 seconds or less. Go.
30 seconds or less. Originally from Dallas, Texas. Moved here about 3 years ago. Was in building development down in there in Texas. Married with a 4-year-old son.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's pretty good. I like that. So tell us about your first deal. What got you into real estate? What got you hooked?
For sure. I would say first deal is kind of, it's a little like the first closed deal.
Like your first, I don't know. We'll leave it open-ended.
Open-ended.
You don't have to name names, though.
So grew up in real estate. I was in the office since like 5 years old. My dad has real estate brokerage, so that's where it kind of started. I didn't want to get in real estate. Unfortunately, I ended up in real estate, or fortunately. First deal was actually in commercial. I had $1 million listing stolen from me, which was a blessing in disguise because then that made me flip into residential. And I didn't do residential real estate as far as selling. I first started in building. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Not at all, but that's okay.
All right.
Keep going.
So first deal was closing on the house that I built. So that was my actually first real estate deal that I closed.
So down in Texas?
Down in Texas, yeah. It was a hard money loan. I was working 3 jobs at the time, and it was interesting just because that was my first real estate deal. Now I never even thought about that. So
was that Raising Cane's?
Yeah, I was Raising Cane's, Lowe's, and I was a real estate agent. Which actually, no, that wasn't my first deal I closed. Shoot. My first deal I closed was, residential. Yeah, single family home.
So, yeah, what was your first development deal that you were behind, you were working on? What did that look like?
Okay, so we're talking about more than one home type of situation, like an actual development with infrastructure, or
just you started out with X and it became Y.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the first deal was the hard money loan that I took out. Got an infill lot. Had no idea how to do infill lots. Didn't know about infrastructure. Didn't know. I didn't know crap, to be honest. So I started off with blueprints. Got that from an architect that was local, which is a whole nother story, but took that to the building inspector and planning and zoning and kind of just asked them, what can I do with this? And they gave me, what was allowed, permits, how much everything costs, and then went from there and learned as we went, what subs to use, what subs don't use, kind of read the radar, which is still a you don't, you say, but just people are getting a lot better at faking it. So during that process, I guess the from A to B or whatever, or A to Z, the whole entire thing is kind of, you have to look back on the entire project and then see where the bottlenecks are, which I had no idea. So how that house closed was by the grace of God, because I had no money left. Hard money. Guy was, about to take my knees out because I was like a month behind. Yeah, this is real. A month behind payments, and I literally I think I had to do 2 more ceiling fans, and I was going from Lowe's to Raising Cane's, and I literally was like, man, I got to make my car payment, because obviously, like, bankers want good credit, so I can't have I can't have my broken knees and no car. That's not going to work. And we got a buyer, and they're like, we'll escrow $50,000 and let you finish the house, and we'll buy it. And that was in 2016, and that house was $80,000. That's what I sold it for. $80,000. I know. That house sold last year for $275,000. They didn't do anything to it. But yeah, and now I look back and I'm like, man, you can't even get
You can't even buy the dirt for that much.
Yeah, you can't even start. You can't even start the project with that much.
So, what advice would you give your younger self?
Man, Um, I think I would have pumped the brakes a little bit. Um, More of learning how, or I would have kept a lot more in a portfolio as rentals. Now that you built it, I was building those homes for like 50, 60K all day. That was like that was easy, man. Yeah, and
It hurts my heart a little
you're
bit.
telling me, I'm like, and if I would have learned about permanent financing later on in the game, or sooner in the game than later on, I would have definitely told my younger self to keep, I would say, a quarter of those homes that I built. Um, because there would be even refinancing 80K on a 9% interest. What are you looking at? That's some of these car payments out here. So I
Again,
definitely,
this is not a financial advice podcast.
yes, this is
We
not,
are not offering or soliciting
no, no,
financial advice.
do not listen to financial advice from me. But yeah, that's what I definitely would have done. Kept a lot more, and just, I think, asked more questions on financing for sure.
So for newer people in real estate, what's a hard money loan?
So hard money loan is an outside non-banker, just an investor that's going to give you X amount of cash for, typically it's a higher interest rate. So I think I was like at a 10 or 11% interest rate versus, well, now commercial loans are close to that, but back then commercial loans were about 5 or 6. So you're almost doubling the interest rate, and they have their own terms. So essentially, depending on what you gave up or what equity that you gave, in this situation, we gave the lot up that I purchased, and then obviously the house is on it. So they could have taken the house at any point in time if we would have defaulted on that loan. Meaning, if we didn't pay back if we weren't paying our interest payments.
Yeah. So that might be a strategy for somebody that's out there.
Yeah,
Um, a hard money loan is an option. Um,
and more for, because obviously banks now are, in even our own experience here, they're pretty tight with their cash right now,
mhm.
and probably the last 3 or 4 years. So if you're just now getting into building and developing, and you have no experience, they're not going to loan you, $500,000 if you literally haven't built one house. And even in our case, I showed them what I've built in Texas, and it was still hard to find something, because they're like, well, what about in this market?
Mm-hmm.
Just because they don't want to assume risk. So I would say do the hard money loan, the last case scenario, the worst case scenario, but it is a way to get into the market and, build if you're confident in it, you know.
Talk about the role of finding the right partners to sort of help you reach that next level with what you want to do in real estate.
For sure. I think that everyone needs to be on the same page. First of all, you have to vet everyone. And also, I think, in the big scheme of things, where do you want your partnership to go? Do you want to hold assets? Do you want to take it to a whole nother level as far as, say, a 9-figure business? Or do you just want to stay comfortable and, build a home or two a year? Which, they're all great, but everyone has to be on the same everyone has to be on the same page, going for the same things, and there has to be different buckets for different things. You can't have everyone do the same thing, because then you're not versatile, and then other people can get in. If you don't have an agent, or if you don't have a builder, if you don't have a develop, whatever the case is, whatever business you're in, everyone needs to have their own thing to put into the business. That's what I think.
So, working with partners, it's important to understand where everybody wants to go with the business. Contractors can be kind of unique characters. Uh, we work with one.
Oh yeah,
I, I think the world of him. I think he's fantastic.
for sure.
But you have experiences with other contractors you've worked with in the Texas market, or just here when you're getting started with building your business here?
Yeah, yeah. One thing I will say is, I used to, like, down in Texas, what I would do is I would call the distribution, whoever's the lumber company, drywall company, whatever that is, ask them for their top 3, top 5 guys that are always in there because you know that they're getting supplies, you know they're working hard. And then from there, I would kind of trickle down to see, how their work is. So if you have those five, maybe two are good as far as like that can continue to scale with you and take your business to the next level. And then I would ask those people for, do you know a framer? Do you know a painter? Do you know a roofer? And they're all in the trade. So now 10 times they might have a cousin or uncle or whatever, a friend that's in the business. But I think the one thing is with having a GC, like, in our partnership, someone that can actually vet them and take them through the process versus, you see a few photos on social media or, they show you their portfolio of things that they've done and it looks all great until they get to the job site. So I think that's where you have to really, if you plan on going to the next level with building and developing, you have to have boots on the ground and almost someone that is going to run them through a test and to see if they pass or fail. Because, as fast as we're moving, you can't just let it keep on happening.
So this is something you and I, with our background, we share in common. But what's it like starting over as a career professional in a completely different market on the other side of the country?
It's frustrating. It's it's something where you can tell anybody and everybody what you've done and they could care less. So it's like going back to school and starting for you like graduate high school about to go to or maybe you're in college and then you have to start in first grade again and just show people over and over and over what you've done and kind of because here you have basements. Texas doesn't have basements. You have different land. Here they don't have that. You have the DEC. Texas doesn't have that. Wetlands. Texas. So there's such a division in what Texas had and what we here we have here, and then also who is going to believe you so much to give you a chance. If that's a brokerage, if that's business partners like you and I and Riley, who's going to give you that chance? Because I talked the first year here, I talked till my face was blue, and people are just like, cool, and just like walk away or not introduce me to the next,
Mm.
the banker that they knew or the GCs that they had or the supplier that they had. So it's difficult, man. And you have to have thick skin. You have to be persistent because no one's going to follow up on you. You're a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a cousin or uncle or best friend that's been in the community for 20 plus years. Like you just got here and they could care less about you.
I echo that. I think there's a lot when you're moving to a new market where you don't have 20 years of connections. It it can be a little rough in terms of just reestablishing new connections, vetting people, vetting subcontractors, finding design professionals that you know that that you're learning to speak the same language, understanding what the rules and regulations are. And that's where having great partnerships really can help get established in a new market
Yeah.
that you're not familiar that in your case you'd come up here a couple of times to visit Jen's
Yeah.
family, but
Yeah.
you had never looked at it from a professional standpoint.
And then even when I did, people were like, no one's building up here. It just when I would come to visit, no one wanted to talk about building, developing opportunities. Everyone just crapped on it, being here. And I was driving around, I just saw all the opportunity. The in our areas in Nashville and Dallas, what infields are left? There are none.
Oh, I've got plenty of clients that are still trying to create them.
Yeah. I mean they're buying $500,000 homes,
Oh,
knocking them down and going vertical.
500,000 is a
You know?
pretty good bargain.
Yeah. And so, when I came here, I was driving around and saw all these infill lots. I saw these blank canvases of corner lots. I've seen center. I call them the center of the watermelon. It's, you know, a lot in between two streets, infrastructure right in
Hmm.
front. And I'm just like, why isn't no one building on this? And so that's where I couldn't sit out anymore. I was just drooling. I was like, man, there's so much opportunity here.
There is, and that it's something that I've talked a little bit about on this podcast, and we're going to have some guests in the future that kind of help help us, help viewers, help everyone understand what resources are available
Yeah.
here in the Western New York market. I mean, you're down as far as Dunkirk.
Yeah,
You dragged me there in the middle of the winter, and I still fell in love with the
for
city.
sure.
I think there's a ton of opportunity there with its location on the waterfront,
Yeah.
just the infrastructure that already exists, and the sense of history and place that's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, what areas would you advise people to start looking at if they wanted to get into the real estate market?
If this can go either way, but for me, I'm the outside of the suburbs, because eventually it's going to go there. So I've always put my money on going to the outskirts, buying some cheap dirt, holding on to it, and then developing it, versus going into Buffalo, going into Orchard Park, going into Hamburg. And this is just saying, if you're new to the game, if you don't have that much cash, if you don't have that much liquid, because there you're going to have more leniency with the town or the village or city, wherever you're working with. They're going to be learning from you as far as new construction, because they probably haven't had a new build since the 80s, 70s. I'm being generous at
Mm.
that. And then with the infrastructure, they probably don't even know what water and sewer lines and what sides they have, at the road, which they put, or whoever put in. So I think there it kind of is a fair playing field, because you're new, they're new, and y'all can learn together, on a potential development.
It's interesting because I spent a lot of time in the city, and there's whole neighborhoods that have just been gone. They're off the face of the earth. So I see a lot of opportunity there as well,
Yeah,
because the water's there, the sewer's there, the streets are there. It's similar to developing in the ex-urban area,
for sure.
but focusing in on places that already existed. And there's a lot of great resources within the city to help further that along. And one of the future videos is going to be focusing on some of the resources that are available and help some of those connections to make development within the city a little bit easier.
Yeah, yeah. And and like I say, I think that the opportunities here with the natural resources that we do have, with seasons too. So you're not, I get winter's going to happen, right? But then, spring, summer, and fall is actually a real thing. So climate control, the water, you can really build anything out here that you want to, essentially,
Future is unlimited.
it really is.
Yeah, our summers are amazing. Our winters, okay.
Yeah, depending
Yeah,
on the
if you're big into skiing, snowshoeing, things like that,
for sure.
top-notch destination.
I agree.
If that's not your thing, winters can be a little bit long.
Yeah,
But honestly, that's why they make airplanes.
yeah, yeah.
Go on vacation, take a little break.
And you can still schedule your construction to that. Make sure your house is framed, dried in, heat on, and then you can that's a sore subject.
Oh yeah,
But as a sore subject here. But you can still forecast what's going to happen, versus in Texas, sometimes you have a tornado, sometimes
Yeah.
it snow, sometimes it would, there was no method to the madness. And then the only thing that was true was the heat during the summer, which even then, you can't have your workers in a 110-degree hot box doing electrical and doing insulation. And then the attic, you're looking at almost 200 degrees up there. So if they're running their lines, and, so there's always a trade
sure.
to what you're building in or developing in.
And that's where having a contractor that's resourceful and can think on the fly and come up with solutions when, because of some weather events, you may not have gas,
Yeah.
or that brand new furnace may have a manufacturer's defect on it, and
Yeah.
that part's not going to be there for a couple days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having a contractor that's resourceful to be able to think through the problem and come up with a temporary solution until the real solution can be done.
Yeah.
Because you can have the best timeline in the world of construction, something is going to happen.
Every
I'm going
day.
to look straight at the camera. and
Every
say,
day.
something will probably happen.
Yeah.
And you absolutely have to have the right team that's resourceful and thoughtful about how to address the situation. If you have somebody on your team that just throws their hands up and panics, it is not helpful.
No, it's not good. No. And also, there's, coming here, there's a lot of things that I don't know about the cold, as far as like, propane heaters and this and
Mhm.
that and this and that. So to have someone on that team like that is crucial. Just, everyone's problem solving, but there's sometimes that you don't have the answer to the problem just because of environment.
This is the We Love Riley show.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
Yeah.
actually just holding a gun to her there.
Yeah. It's just being honest truth, It's you gotta have it.
You
know?
absolutely have to have it.
Yeah. Versus someone that's not in the business or not a partner would just walk off and be like, "There's no heat in the house," and because they don't care, they'll
Yeah.
go to the next job, right?
Yeah, this
Like-
is broken. Good night and good luck.
Yeah, see you later, and just walk away. And I've had my fair share of that too.
Yeah.
But
that's where having that team member
for sure.
to be able to think and come up and be resourceful enough to make that temporary solution work.
Yeah.
And it saved us a lot of money and a lot of headache.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
So that house is dry.
Yeah.
That house has got the furnace working. I haven't been there yet today, but I hear it's looking good.
Yeah, it's getting painted.
Yeah, I'll go see it this afternoon. Drive by it.
Yeah.
I know people that started in residential and they're like, I love this. This is exactly
crazy.
what I want to do. Like this is my last stop on the train. I love it.
Yeah.
And there's people, they're making a killing doing it. And
For sure.
and they're happy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that pays their bills.
Yeah.
They like doing it. They go to work every day. They show houses. They're just killing it in that market.
You have to love residential to be in residential.
Yeah.
Like it's long hours, and it's a lot of just it. You just have to love it.
It's a lot of no's. It's a lot of
Yeah.
yeah. You're right. This did look better in pictures.
Yeah.
Or how do we get a photographer in here to help other people see the value that's
For
here?
sure. Yeah.
How do we put this in the best light possible?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
In commercial real estate, you can be the guy that puts up flyers and knocks on every door and is the local expert.
Yeah.
You could own that neighborhood in residential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you can use residential and being an agent as a springboard to something else. One of the other topics that we're going to talk about in the video series is how people got their start, how they transitioned from being or doing something, and how that translated into getting into real estate. You might be a great salon owner. You've got 3 or 4 people working for you. You just love being a salon owner. But it'd be kind of cool if you also could own the building. I mean, it's a
tangible thing.
It's a very tangible thing. And in places like Buffalo, it's a realistic possibility with the very low entry point.
Entry point.
With a very low cost of entry
100%.
for all real estate generally. You can be a great videographer.
Yeah.
Shoot amazing content for other people, or you can launch into your own business, kind of get to do your own thing. And eventually maybe you own your own space. You own your own studio. That way you can continue to make money even if you're not there every day pursuing your other passions within the industry.
Yeah. So I'm going to take it back to the question. How long have you been in real estate, would you say? Like the realm of real estate?
20 plus-ish years. I've been doing it since I was very, very young.
So what would you tell that young person?
Just do it.
Yeah?
Figure out what you want to do and try it. The worst thing you can do is fail.
This is true.
No one's going to kill you. Look, so maybe the hard money lender, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, you might break your knees.
Just try it. If you're successful, great. If it works out, amazing. If it doesn't, at least you tried something.
And then whenever you got into the deal, whenever you got into real estate, what was one of your hardest developments Can you tell us some pros and cons of it, and what did you learn out of it?
Oh wow, that's like a 3 or 4 part question.
Yeah.
Um, so it was probably not one of my first jobs, but it was one of my first jobs after coming out of a really bad experience. Um, so it was kind of a role that I fake it till you make it. So I was bluffing a little bit on some of the knowledge that I had. It was still industry ish, but it was a little fluffy around the edges. So it was kind of being thrown into some really, really big, expensive projects. And I inherited a pretty hostile relationship with that developer. There was just a lot of animosity, and it wasn't going well. Overall, it was inheriting a pretty tough relationship, and the hardest part was eventually kind of working through and realizing we both wanted the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we both wanted successful um, developments that looked good, that functioned well. And once I kind of realized we were on the same page, we are figuring out ways that we can work together. So it was improving that relationship and it ended up being very successful for them and successful for me too, because it was one of the steps that led me to the path to realize I can do this.
Yeah.
I can take on a role as a developer. I can be a real estate agent. Um, I have the ability and the power to do things, to try things.
For
Because the
sure.
worst thing I could do is, yeah, you know what, that didn't work out so well. So I'm just going to go get a job working for somebody else for a while.
Yeah.
I'm going to go flip chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. Shit.
I mean,
God forbid. But yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody's out there that's dreaming of real estate and flipping chicken or frying, not flipping.
Yeah, flip
If they're
chicken. That's what we said. Flipping chicken.
flipping
Because you
chicken,
literally flip it into the fryer.
really?
Yeah, flipping chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody out there that's flipping chicken that's dreaming of a career in real estate, yeah, go ahead and get started down that path if that's
Yeah.
something you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I think like you were saying, the hostile environment and learning and taking your pros and taking your cons and turn them into pros. I think now you know better, but back then you might have had that lens of just not ignorance, but just what is it? Naive,
Yeah.
and that was probably the biggest success that it's just when you don't know and I think I think people see it when you truly don't know and you're just like you don't know yourself, and so you ask a dumb question or you put something in front of them and they're like, oh, poor child. But yeah, this is they
Yeah.
feel some kind of like not sad towards you or whatever, but they give you a chance.
At the dumb questions at the appropriate time.
100%.
Learning the appropriate time is critical to success.
100%.
If you're the dumbest person in the room, take notes. Ask
Yeah.
follow up later.
Yeah, yeah. No, whenever we're talking about the first development A through Z or whatever, I remember whenever I went to the first bank to do development and I brought in like it was, I don't know, 24 by 36 maybe, but it was just a blank piece of paper and I had a fake cul-de-sac in it and then lots. This is all map color penciled, and I made sure that the red was the concrete and the blue was the water and the green was sewer. And I took it to the bank and I'm like, yeah, I want $500,000 to do this. And they literally like looked at me because I, cold called, got the loan officer, set up the meeting, went in there before my shift. And she just like looked at the piece of paper and I will never forget it. And she just like looked up. She's like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, where's your engineering plans? And I'm like, I don't have any. Where's your budget? Oh, I don't have any. I don't have any. Where's the topo? Where's the survey? And she just started listing. But what I was doing was taking notes in my head. Like, okay, so I need an engineer, I need a survey, I need a topo, I need, and and now I look at that. I wish I would have kept that
I
to
would have
frame it,
loved to
man.
have framed that somewhere.
Because I can't even tape windows, so you can only imagine you can only imagine how
Look, there's
that
a
would.
video out there of me using the nail gun, and
Yeah,
somebody even asked. They said, "At that rate, this house is going to take it 2 years to get built." I was like, "Look, first day,
yeah.
like,
Hey, but
but that
sometimes you have to do that.
uh, it took something off of our contractor's plate so that
Yeah,
he could focus on something else."
for sure,
So it's
for
like
sure.
it's a little bit like being the giving a kid a hammer and two pieces of wood and just have him hammering in the
Yeah,
corner.
yeah, yeah,
It's like it just keeps him busy. It's
yeah,
fine. Sometimes you're that person in that stage of a project.
yeah. And no matter what, too, I think whenever you are in, building, developing, or whatever the situation is, at the beginning stages, you have to wear a lot of hats. And I think a lot of people don't understand that because they see the bigger picture. They see 10 years from now, and that's all cool, but you're going to have to get dirty.
Hmm.
You're going to have to be out there and maybe talk to a lender. And I still have questions to lenders.
Hmm.
They'll ask me something, and I'm like, well, can you just run me over what that is real fast
Hmm.
before I'm an idiot and I show them the the development on map color pencils.
It's a start. You had
Yeah,
an idea.
for sure.
I work with clients that are new to real estate and kind of getting their feet wet. And sometimes it starts off with just kind of a basic sketch of what they want. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, let's take this, let's put it through the engineering, let's make sure we're checking some
yeah,
things. And one, we'll see if this is feasible. We'll see if we can do something better than that.
yeah,
But, here are the next couple of steps. And I love doing that. I love
yeah,
working with people that are getting their start in real estate, working on small projects
yeah,
because they have an idea. Most of them still have other jobs.
for sure.
So
Yeah,
finding the right partner, getting the right consultant on board helps them be able to focus on making that project successful, but also doing things like making sure they can pay their rent or
yeah,
mortgage or buy food that month,
yeah,
send their kid to school or daycare or make a car note,
yeah,
whatever it might be. It just takes something off your plate.
yeah. And I think also if you are getting into real estate or if you're doing building and whatever, you need an agent or you need to get your own license.
Mm,
And I tell people this all the time because they even looking at deals, right? Like on MLS, LoopNet, CoStar, whatever you're using, you still have to have a license to look at those things.
mm-hmm.
Versus someone's like, "Oh, well, I'll just look on Zillow." You're not gonna get the P&L. You're not gonna get what's the owner's name. You're not gonna get all that stuff on Zillow.
But
You
even
know?
if you are an agent, there's a good point where you go look at it something and go, I'm in over my head. I need to phone a friend.
For sure.
Like that old game show.
Yeah.
I need to phone a friend.
Yeah.
Like, can we eliminate half the answers?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different ways, there's a lot of different paths.
For sure.
And especially once you make that jump from basic residential, single family, maybe a duplex, and start jumping into multifamily units, 5, 6, 8 plus, your connections are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
The lending sources, most residential regular mortgage agents don't have the ability to pull off a commercial.
No.
You're going to be talking to a different department at the bank. They're going to be running different metrics to see if it works. There's a ton of things that become different. So as an agent, you should recognize, hey, I need to phone a friend.
Yeah.
And that's where you should talk to your broker, your
Yeah.
branch manager, whoever it might be, and say, we need to call in some big guns.
Yeah.
That might be you, that might be me. Your project might even be bigger than the two of us, and we have to get somebody who's even higher level
Yeah.
than us.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm happy to play second fiddle with somebody
Mm-hmm.
just to help make a deal happen,
Yeah.
because that's a relationship. That's something I can add to my portfolio to help grow my own business, but also grow the brand, grow the reputation, and then grow the number of connections that we all have.
Also, whenever I first started out, I think there was, or not think, I know, there was no one that told me financing, like who to talk to, what am I talking about, can I use land, can I not use land as equity, and equity as your down payment,
Mm-hmm.
how much cash do I need to bring to the table, what are the interest rates. There was no one talked to you about that, and you can ask a million people, and they just didn't know
Mm-hmm.
because they were so used to FHA, conventional,
Mm-hmm.
VA, 30-year notes.
Mm-hmm. So how do you take that? You've got 10 acres and 1,000 feet. I'm bad, but big round numbers.
Yeah,
1,000 feet. How do you take that and divide that up into lots?
yeah,
What are the professionals you need to have on
yep,
board? That's where phoning a friend is really helpful
100%.
for someone that's just getting started.
Yeah,
You have somebody that, oh, I've got an apartment building with 20 units in it and I want to buy it. Okay, that's great. Find a friend, phone a friend,
yeah,
find someone that knows and has experience with that type of work.
yeah, yeah, because they're two different ball games,
Completely different.
you know? Yeah,
There's things somebody else is going to go, based on my experience with these kind of buildings, these are the top 5 things we should know.
yeah.
And you can YouTube University that all day. Also, shout out Josh the Planner on YouTube.
Josh the Funner, I love it.
No, it's actually my YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
that's what I gotta subscribe.
YouTube University will get you so far,
It's, yeah,
but there's those very unique, market-specific, building age specific things that you need to have that friend, you need to have that
yeah.
resource to be able to walk it through you,
Walk it through with you.
walk it through with you. That's hard to say.
Walk through you.
Walk through you like you're a ghost.
Yeah, right.
Through a property, through a deal, and
Mhm.
kind of pinpoint, hey, based on my experience, these matter. Oh, this particular bank, yeah, they focus on this. So
Mhm.
make sure that they focus on this piece of it. So make sure that you're spending a lot of time and you know the ins and out of that, whatever that particular number, aspect of whatever it might be. Make sure that's focused on.
Yeah. And I think also what I learned the last 10 years doing this stuff, it's a lot of people don't know it.
Mm.
And I talked to someone, I'm helping them subdivide some lots in Fredonia, and I just keep forgetting that they don't know the process. Which to me, it's like I can do, it's a three lot minor plat. I can
Mhm.
do that in my sleep, and just telling them like, yeah, there's an easement here. You could do 100 foot of frontage, on this, on all 3 lots, and but to them, they're just like, they stay quiet on the phone like I'm speaking Swahili or something, because they, like, generally people don't know this information,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been doing it so long too. Like, I'm sure you can get,
uh, and the rules change and change from town to town, from village to
yeah,
village,
yeah,
city, even the zoning district.
yeah,
The rules are going to change, but I know where to look to get that information. I
yep,
know that that's a checklist item that we need to figure out.
yep.
But yeah, I know the ins and outs of it in my sleep.
Yeah,
But yeah, there are other people that go, I don't know how to do that.
yeah,
It's like, that's okay. You're starting a conversation with someone who does know
yeah,
is the best first step you can
yeah.
do.
And I would say invest in that, the person that's gonna take it from. And that's another thing where I had to learn, like, midway during my career, that those people are gonna take it there faster, to the curb, from the road to curb.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay for the right engineer,
Mm-hmm.
the right attorney, the right surveyor,
The right architect.
the right architect, and knows exactly what they need to do to get you that permit, versus the price. Obviously, price has to pay and everything, but if you get the bottom of the pole on every single level of that, it's going to take you a year versus, I've had people turn around with 60 days, 90 days
Mm-hmm.
to get a permit. All that's time is money. And guess what? When you close on your loan, to your building interim loan, your interest starts then.
Mm-hmm. that
you
day.
know, that day. So if you still have 6 months of paperwork, you might be done,
Yeah.
you
Soft
know?
costs are real.
Yeah.
Soft costs are real. And it it matters who you hire to make sure that they understand the project, the scale, the
Yep.
size, and they have the ability to do it.
Yep.
You might be a great engineer that does multi-billion-dollar water and sewer infrastructure. Doesn't mean you know the specifics of what this particular water district, what the
Yeah.
connection,
Yep.
what their standard details look like.
Yep. And if they can, and even if that water infrastructure can handle 1,000 home development, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're having issues right now in Texas is just the amount of water that we don't have
Yeah.
because we don't have a natural resource like Lake Erie.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm sitting here. I'm just kind of scratching my head on why there's not more development, you
Uh,
know.
Infrastructure is not something that the Western New York area really struggles with because
Exactly.
we were bigger. We did have huge industries here.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of extra capacity for water, for sewer,
Yeah.
for transportation. Are there improvements that need to be made? Yes.
Absolutely. Everywhere
But
though.
we still have the infrastructure for a city 3 times our size
Yeah.
as a region.
As a read, yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah. So what do you see in as far as the next 5 years? If you had a crystal ball? Let's just say you have a crystal ball in front of you. What's your outlook on the real estate market here, and what do you see some things that might be coming up?
I think the Buffalo and Western New York real estate market will continue to grow. I think people are recognizing us as a destination.
Hmm.
What I would like to see is more neighborhoods take control of their own destiny and start creating what they want to see in their neighborhood so that they're able to, if change is going to happen, that they both get to lead the change, but also benefit from it. So putting out the resources so that that block, they really need a coffee shop or a hair salon or just small, simple, incremental changes
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have those neighborhoods have the power, have the resources to build what they need. And I think that's how our cities were originally built before huge money started getting thrown at them. Well, cut that part out. I like huge money too. Uh, but a lot of it is going back to the basics of how neighborhoods and communities were originally formed and being able to grow and transition incrementally over time.
Yeah.
So there's something out there called strong towns. There's something called the Incremental Development Alliance.
Hmm.
There's a ton of people out there that are putting these resources and trying to get them into the hands of as many local neighborhoods and communities as possible.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
I'm here. I'm spreading the gospel.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think there needs to be more developers that are willing to take the risk
Mm-hmm.
and get out there and see if something fails or doesn't. And that's the one thing I do. That's the one thing I don't see is a lot of developers taking the risk. I mean, the house we built on board, and that was a huge risk.
Absolutely.
And hindsight, looking at it now, like if I would have never built before, I would have never even tried to do that because obviously I went to poverty areas and built developments and all that, and you learn what's going to give or what's not. But to build something modern
Mm-hmm.
on a Cape Cod ranch street, now looking at it, it's kind of like now I know why everyone thought we were crazy. You know what I mean?
It was bold.
It was super bold.
It
Yeah.
still is bold.
Yeah, yeah. No, 100%. 100%.
But I mean, I knew we understood the market
For sure.
demographics. We
Yeah.
knew the location, what was around it. We kind of we understood the market factors. What worried me is that you do not want me building your entire house.
For sure.
I'm happy to help. I'm
Yeah.
happy to go run and grab nails or whatever we need,
Yeah.
but I am not your primary
yeah.
construction point of contact.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have that partner.
For sure.
If I had that partner, I'd probably still be in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah.
but this is how life works.
Yeah.
There's a grand master plan for all of us.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like, but I'm going to try.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that we wouldn't be where we are if I hadn't met you through our previous brokerage.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know Riley if I hadn't met you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know Tyler if I
Yeah.
hadn't met you.
Yeah.
So now it's the we love Colby show.
Yeah, it's my turn.
But it's the power of partnerships,
Yeah.
of just finding the right people that
Yep.
are wanting to go in the same direction that you are, that care about the same things that you do, and just making sure that you're all aligned,
Yeah.
and then bringing in the right people, the right resources to propel all of you forward.
Yeah. And I think as well as out here, the one thing I will say that's I think it's a contribution to success is your distribution companies, your big lumber companies, your big drywall, they want to see you be successful. And also like they love to see like new stuff. Like, whenever we bring our design to siding and roofing and whoever's in front of it, they love it because they're like, man, we need this. Versus in Texas, you're just another number.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're building 20 homes a year, you're still one of the smallest builders in town.
Mm-hmm.
Versus here, if you build 20 homes a year, you'll actually be on top 10 builders of Western New York, which is crazy to me. But I think that's where you get a lot of feedback, and sometimes it's not going to be the best feedback, and sometimes it is.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, you get feedback, which is huge.
Yeah.
It's instrumental to your success.
When we started shopping those plans around, people looked at it and went, that is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is very different than what most other builders are building right now. But
I agree.
We saw there's a niche in the market. There's a niche.
I think it's both niche or niche.
We found there was a specific gap in the market that wasn't providing something like that. And as of right now, we've been successful.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. See what the next couple of 3 or 4 or 5 builds look like. But
I think it's been fun though to see like all of our brains work on this project. Because we all have different strong suits to us. But if you were to turn back time even on this project, what are some things that you've learned from, and what are some things that you don't want to replicate, would you say?
Oh boy. Where's the table? Oh. There's a lot of small incremental things.
Yeah.
That, instead of doing this, instead of doing that we're already working on and fixing.
For sure.
What would I think it's easier to say what would I do again, and that working with Riley, sort of building the business, I would do this again. I would have loved to have done it sooner. I would have loved to have met both of you 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
10
years ago, well, one, you were still in Texas.
Yeah.
Were you were in college, right?
No, I was starting Garza Group 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. Sometimes I forget my age. Yeah. I'd say 20 years ago, but you would still been in high school.
Yeah,
it would have been.
You wouldn't have wanted to met me then.
No, I'm not. You wouldn't have wanted to met 20 years ago me either.
Exactly.
He was a little too high strung. So yeah, working with the right people. Yeah. The idea of what we have, I would do it again. I would do it again as many times as we can until the market says we don't want any more of this.
I know. That's where I'm like, did we get lucky on time? We didn't even time the market, first of all, because we all just met. But Texas is kind of flatline right now just because they have the demand, or they have the supply. Here we don't have any supply, and we have crazy amounts of demand. So I think the next 10 years is going to be crazy.
I think the next 10 years is we've already been at the bottom. You and I have had this conversation off camera before.
Yeah.
Western New York already hit bottom. We are already well aware of what that looks like, and we're climbing and clawing our way from there.
Yeah.
And there's other cities that have done it successfully, and we're learning from those models.
Yeah.
And we're also, I say this a lot to other people, there is no white knight. There is no one coming in to save us. We
No.
have to do it ourselves,
Literally.
block
Yeah.
by block, brick by brick.
Yep.
It's Tyler building his business. It's you and I. It's us
Yeah.
creating the city, creating the region that we want to be.
Yeah.
No one else is going to do it for us.
No, and there has to be the risk factor too, where, even, building this, having this studio and getting people in here, and, there's always a way to find people. I think you have to first know what you stand for, know what you want to see in the future, and then go for it. But also show people that you can do it.
Mhm.
Like the board, and we don't know, that house is always going to be there, right? So you don't know who we're going to influence that's driving by, walking by, goes to the house, and say, that's going to be something that might change the future. We don't know that, or might influence someone to start their building career. Like, what that happens, whatever that springs off of, I think this is a small enough community to where it can actually have an effect everywhere, in Western New York in general.
I mean, it's going to, our buyers and the family that they're hoping to create, it's changing their life.
Yeah.
They're thrilled with it.
Yeah.
Not going to stay that way.
Yeah.
But it's the power of real estate is that it has the ability to change lives.
Yeah.
It's
It
changed
does.
mine for the better. It's changed yours.
100%.
I'm happy, which is a good change from 20 years ago, mate.
Yeah.
It's just it gives you flexibility. It gives you freedom to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beauties of it. It's also one of the downfalls, because you spend quite a few nights working on stuff or coming home from a job site that you moderately helped at, just covered in sawdust
Yeah.
or paint fumes, or
you go to Olean and get, or
Or-
wherever that was, and
or you drive 2.5 hours to a city to meet with a lender that says, yeah, we don't, you're like 3 counties away. We lend a little bit in this county, and that's about it.
yeah.
But it was a great connect. It was a great learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And should we ever choose to develop in that market, we have a connect.
Yeah. I think also that would,
We had a great lunch.
yeah, for sure. I think that kind of put us both, though, in the realm. Even, we got hit sideways every single way last year.
Oh, yeah.
From almost getting financing to lost emails saying, get out of here. Like, we're done. Like, you've done it in Texas. Get out. I mean, and the thing is, though, the reason why we stayed as a group and partners too, is because we never stopped.
No.
Like, we would take that, went to the steakhouse, laughed, ate our meals,
Laughed through some tears. It's just like, okay, you know what? This isn't it.
Yeah.
We got to regroup. We got to refocus.
Yeah.
We still want to achieve this.
Yeah.
That goal has not changed.
Yeah.
It's just we thought this was a step towards it.
Yeah.
It wasn't. All right. We got to step. We got to figure out. All right. If this wasn't it, we got to figure out what that next step is.
And that's, and I think that talking to your younger self, I think that's what I would tell my younger self as well. Like, listen, dude, it doesn't matter how much experience you have. You're always going to have to prove yourself again and again and again.
Never stop improving. Never stop.
Yeah.
Never stop improving. And you're never going to stop proving yourself if you're growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're always going to be in a new group. You're always going to be meeting with a bigger fish in the pond.
100%. Especially if you want to go to the top.
Yeah.
And you're going to do stuff that's going to make you uncomfortable. And if you're not, then you're not growing.
Yes.
And that's just the bottom line. You're not going to have the answers always. And if you have 50% of the answers, well, then get in a room and make yourself feel more uncomfortable.
Yeah. Sometimes being uncomfortable is just sitting down in front of a camera, in front of people that you know a little bit, and just talk.
Yeah.
for far longer than you ever have before in your life.
Yeah.
And hopefully the guy behind the camera can stitch it together to make you sound coherent.
Yeah. But hey, we're here, and I was reflecting yesterday. We went my Jenny, my wife Jenny and Asher, we went on a walk, and I was just having one of those days,
Mm.
And so my wife told me that people don't think I have bad days, which I'm like,
Oh, they don't know you.
I'm like, maybe social media says that. I'm like, if you talk, well, and I also don't talk to a lot of people. So if you're my business partner and if you're my wife, I have bad days or business
partner,
partners. Yeah.
counselor, therapist.
I have those days. But I was just, telling her, just kind of venting a little bit, and then I sat back and I said, you know what? I said, well, maybe this is going to push me to make myself be better at X,
Mm-hmm.
building, commercial real estate, whatever. Because you know where we want to take Obsidian. And without those factors pushing you out of places that you're comfortable, you'll never take it to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like we don't have a plan B on that. It's plan A: build, develop, keep going.
Now, plan A morphs and changes, and
Yeah,
it adapts to the situation. But
for sure.
yeah, and if plan A didn't work out, okay,
Yeah,
not a problem. Let's we're gonna part amicably.
yeah,
You do this, you do this. We're gonna pay this off,
Yep.
and we're gonna try. We'll go our separate ways and try something else.
Yeah, 100%.
No one's gonna kill you.
No, but you have to go for it.
You got to try it.
Yeah, I agree.
So we are running out of time.
Yes.
And I want to thank my special guest, good friend, therapist, business partner.
Likewise, though, too.
Yeah.
It's 2 for 1.
Colby Garza. We spent quite a bit of time talking about a lot of just different aspects of life, real estate, business, whatever it might be, friendship, partnerships. We covered a lot today, but hopefully you got something out of this. So make sure that you like and subscribe. And stay tuned for future podcasts with other special guests and other tidbits of information as we go along. So thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.